Now, welcome back. We didn't get a chance to touch on the weekend's hurling yesterday, so we're making amends this afternoon. Limerick very much underlined their All-Ireland credentials in fine fashion on Sunday. To discuss, we have Tommy Walsh with us. Evening, sir.
Good evening, Joe.
How are you?
Yeah, good. Just getting ready for a club month now, Joe, so all excitement around the clubs around the country.
Best month of the year.
That's great. Well, we're lucky enough this year. We have 3 matches up as far as, say, the 20th of May. So it's definitely exciting for the club players in Kilkenny, I think, the next couple of weeks.
Good. Well, we must talk to you at the end of it and see how it's working. It seems to be a big success in lots of counties. So an 8-point win for Limerick, 124 to Waterford's 19 points. Kilkenny, the only other county over the last 30 years to follow up an All-Ireland win with a league win. So if nothing else, Limerick have made a real statement of intent here.
Yeah, Joe, and I think one thing we have to congratulate Limerick is how they handled themselves after winning the All-Ireland. So you can kind of go 3 ways, I suppose, really. One team might win an All-Ireland and kind of go off the rails, celebrating. It might be the first time in so many years. So they're probably bringing the Liam McCarthy Cup around to every pub in the country, every school in the country, every probably home in that county. The other way you can go about it is nearly be scared of winning, afraid to enjoy it, and you're nearly trying to turn away every opportunity that you have. And the third way is the way Limerick have done it, and they seem to be able to enjoy both sides of it. So they didn't go around over-celebrating. On the other side, they've been going around with smiles on their faces ever since winning that All-Ireland. So you have to take your hats off to them, because they had no experience really in doing it before. Anyone probably, because the last time they have won it was 1973. So I think major congratulations to them and John Kiley and his management team. And I think he came out with a statement during the week about how these guys, it's a hurling career, not a hurling year. And, you know, another really sensible thing coming from the manager, keep their feet on the ground, but he seems to allow them to enjoy it at the same time. But yeah, definitely a big statement last Sunday.
They seem like a great bunch, very likeable. I think the whole country has a soft spot for Limerick, and I agree totally. They've conducted themselves brilliantly over the last number of months. How did Kilkenny tend to react to All-Ireland wins, of those 3 options you talk about?
Yeah, we probably kind of the same one as Limerick, I suppose. No, it was a different time back then. Like, we had an off-season, Joe. So you go back to when we were winning time, like you'd finish hurling in, depending on your club, but usually probably for most guys nearly the end of probably October or around that time. So you had 2 months really of off season. So you're allowed to go out and enjoy it and enjoy the social life, as well as, you know, do a little bit of training possibly on your own. There wasn't a great amount of gym work done really even that time. There was a total break. You'd come back, then you'd be maybe a stone and a half, 2 stone, depending on the fella, overweight. And that was nearly seen as a good thing, because you could burn that off then in January and February, and then you're fresh then come the business end of the year. So we were probably living in a different time when we could probably celebrate that bit more. So that's why you have to say it was harder to do what Limerick have done, which is maintain their physical shape, which we have seen. They have extra tight fit jerseys, but they're still able to pull it off. And they still were able to go out and enjoy it. So I think it was different in our time. So I think even more respect to Limerick for the way they handle themselves.
And did you tend to winter well?
One year I did. I remember 2006/7 that winter,
right? And
it was my first year. I was in college for 4 years down UCC, and we were training obviously all year round, because you go straight into the Fitzgibbon Cup after that, and it was a great. I suppose the Fitzgibbon campaigns down UCC were brilliant and took very seriously, but you enjoyed them at the same time. But basically, you're training all year round. So the first year I left college, then I did nothing from probably November to I'd say probably January/February, whenever we came home from the team holiday. And I'd be normally 12 stone. That'd be my fighting weight, and don't really kind of go too far away from that. But that season I went to 13.5 stone. It was my only. Yeah. I remember we were doing these squares. That time the physical training we were doing that time was squares, and you might go off for 2 or 3 minutes as hard as you can go. Remember myself and Noel Hickey, we were getting lapped in these little squares, but it wasn't seen as a bad thing. It was kind of seen as, not, we're getting better every night, and we'll be fresh then when time comes. And I remember we had a team meeting then. I didn't play well in the Leinster final that year, and I was took off. And remember we had a meeting below in Wexford. We used to stay down in Wexford on maybe go away for a training weekend or that time. And we had a team meeting that day. And remember Brian Cody said to me, Tommy Walsh, your weight has gone through the roof. What's going on? And he didn't have to say anything else, but I knew the story. I had a chat with the nutritionist afterwards, so I had to go back then and forget about the biscuits at night and cut down the weight and sort it out. But the great thing at that time was then one of the selectors came over to me, and while on one side of it, here I was, and the statement was made to me, sort it out, or you mightn't be on the team.
But
then on the other side,
you weren't still heavy by Leinster final time.
I wasn't 13.5 stone, but I probably wasn't flying around the pitch,
Right, maybe 12.5.
12.5, maybe 12 and 3/4. But I was physically fit, but I wasn't peak fitness because I wasn't after losing all I was eating probably the diets, and that was only coming in really at that time. So I was still living the old way of training hard, but off the field then you can kind of eat and do what you want.
And sorry, you were going to say that one of the physios came over to you after Cody told you?
One of the selectors came over to me, and my father wouldn't have been the fittest, but he was a very good hurler, very good club full back, and he just came over and gave me a little nod. He said, "Hey, don't worry about it all. Your father was the very same, and it didn't do him any harm at all." So, so I was able to go off with a bit of confidence, but also sort it out.
Well, listen, if Brian Cody tells you lose weight, you lose weight. That's simple.
Yeah.
But on that point, I mean, the Limerick jerseys, they are definitely tight fitting, and these lads are ripped.
They are, and and I think most county guys are now at this stage. I think the thing with Limerick is we're talking about the way they play, the way they're able to hit the ball short, they're able to hit the ball long. It doesn't seem to matter to these guys. And then when they don't have the ball, they're probably the best team in the country to take it back off you. We seen Waterford last Sunday. They tried to go long, they tried to go short. And when they did go short, and this is the thing, when they did go short, Kyle Hayes and these boys, they were just surrounding him, Garrod Hegarty, surrounding him and taking it off him. And the Waterford guy that was in possession of the ball, their best option wasn't even a good option at that stage. So I think they're the best team in Ireland at the moment, even without the ball. And what I can't understand is you see a team, they go all defensive. So when the ball goes up to the forward line, then they're outnumbered, 2-3 to 1. But Limerick seem to be able to outnumber guys in defence and in attack, which is really a credit probably to their physical fitness and their real attitude really after winning the All-Ireland.
Well, it was very striking even on occasion where one of the Limerick forwards might have been outnumbered, 2 or 3 Waterford players around him. Still, the quality of the run, the timing of the run, and then the execution of these passes from almost all the Limerick players was top-notch. Even that outnumbered Limerick forward was still getting very good ball.
Yes, and the old way of thinking was when you get the ball, whether you're in defence or in attack, you go forward. Don't ever go back from anyone. You go forward, break the tackle. But the thing with them is they keep you guessing because they can go anywhere. So their coach isn't just going out telling them, right, guys, it doesn't matter what happens. We want the ball going to the other end of the field, whether that's soloing with the ball or striking. They're not. They're saying heads up and go with the best option. So you see anyone on that Limerick half back line, their first maybe instinct is to go forward. But if that option isn't there, so if they are held back, they turn back and there's not always an option there. And they're not afraid of giving a 5-yard pass or a 10-yard pass. They were playing in Nolan Park in the semi-finals, Joe, there a week or two ago, and I was just talking to a Kilkenny man that was looking at their warm-up. So Paul Kinnerky, he seems to do these kind of possession games in their warm-ups, and he said their ability to retain possession in them little 5-a-side games or that was incredible. Right. So their stick work and their hand-eye coordination is incredible. So they really are playing at the top of their game at the moment, Joe.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I mean, the quality of the passing was fantastic. It was a joy to watch, actually. They were a joy to watch. They were all expressing themselves. They could do whatever you wanted. They could go short quickly. They could go long. Really just purring, in great shape. And people were saying to John Kiley, well, can you keep this up? And he said, of course we can. You're either at it or you're not. And that's his attitude. And we're staying at it.
Yeah, that's true. And the thing about it is, how can he do that? It's by keeping the boys that are playing on their toes. And he is doing that. We already see Peter Casey was in instead of Seamus Flanagan. Tom Condon is in. I know Mike Casey was injured, but he's still in there and hurling well. So suddenly guys say in the back line, they see Mike Casey coming back. They're wondering, right, Tom Condon is flying. So it's not just a straight swapping. It could be any of us if they want to get Mike Casey back in the team. In the forward line then, they're looking at Shane Dowland, they're looking at Seamus Flanagan, they're looking at Barry Murphy. Any of these guys can be put on. And John Kiley has proved that day in, day out by picking guys and giving them a chance. So I think by doing that, he's able to keep them on their toes.
There's no better way to do it. Whatever about just even players making substitute appearances across the league, Kiley has started 29 different players across this 29. League campaign. So 29 have started, and I think 23 or 24 have started more than 4 games, which is just frightening for everybody else. And then you've got, you've got real moments of expression like the Galan goal, which is just a little slice of magic.
Yes, and there's no amount of Paul Kinnerk training sessions can really train a guy how to do that. That's instinct. That's a guy that's at the top of his game. I'd say Galan has been the best hurler in the country this year so far. He's hurling out of his skin nearly most days. And that ball came into him. And like most times, Noel O'Connor was right in front of him. And he reckons that Tom Morrissey mishit the ball. Like he really tried to smack it, glide it over the bar. But the ball came in at a frightening pace. Noel Connors was in front of him, stuck up the hurl. And usually the forward then takes his eye off the ball because Galan was in behind Noel Connors. And by the time it misses Noel Connors' hurl, it's too late. And the forward misses it as well. No one notices. But Galan's instinct was, if he misses this, I'm ready. And just a little flick. And it was a real kind of a deft touch. And we've seen many great goals in the past, but that is definitely one of the best goals I've seen up there in Croke Park. And I think it's a real great sign of Galan because he hit a lot of wides as well.
He did, yeah.
And it wasn't a case of the perfect performance. No, he stuck at it. And that was magical and great to see because he bet a great goalie as well in Stephen O'Keefe. Like Stephen O'Keefe has had a terrific campaign as well with his club, Ballygunner, and has gone on and played well with Waterford. And he's one of these goalies with the lightning reflexes, Joe. So he doesn't, balls don't go past him willy-nilly. He has lightning reflexes, and it was a magical goal.
Yeah, he's brave as well. He took one in the ribs when he came out and made himself big. Galan had 6 wides in the second half, but clearly, as we're saying, didn't affect his confidence. Scored 1-9 in total. And so just to get into the minutiae of it, do you think that Galan early on in that moment decided, well, if Connors gets a touch in it, then fair enough, I missed the ball. But do you think he said, I'm going to pretend as if Connors isn't here and I'm going to watch the trajectory, because there's no time for me to react if Connors gets a touch in it. So he just said, I'm going to gamble. Do you think that's what he did in his mind?
I think in his mind there was no time for thinking. So I'd say he had that done before he even knew it.
Yeah.
There was 2 options. He tries to catch it or he tries to flick it. And I'd say it was just the first thing came into his head. Possibly it came too fast for him even to stick up his hand. If you often notice a goalkeeper, when you're one-on-one with a goalkeeper, we'll say take the Stephen Bennett chance in the first half. He soloed through, should have probably went another few steps. Now, usually the 2 Bennetts are razor sharp in front of goal. So surprising to see him miss that chance. But say he hit the ball. If there's one place that a goalie can stop it, it's the way the Limerick goalie, Nicky Quaid, holds the hurl. Say it's the normal style, I suppose, that the right hand on top. Well, the boss is to one side, and that's where Stephen Bennett hit the ball. So he was able to just barely move the hurl.
Yeah.
So as if he had to hit it to the other side of him, he would have had to cross hands and probably wouldn't have had time from close range to stop it, Joe.
Yeah.
We'll go back to Galan then. His chance, he probably didn't have time to switch around his hands and try and catch it.
Yeah.
So I'd say his first instinct was just to move the hurl.
Yeah.
So I'd imagine it was down to basic instinct. But a guy not used to being in that position would have probably just thought about it and then messed it up. Whereas the great forwards are able to just do things on instinct. Possibly he's been doing that in training and down in his club for many years or down in the garden. So I'd say it's probably not the first time he has done it.
No, I wouldn't think so. So a word on Waterford then, who I know you have high hopes for this year. Just been looking around at the general coverage of Waterford and seeing what people are saying about them, and it's as you might expect. Look, everybody is saying they've had a great campaign, but for instance, Anthony Daly in the Examiner yesterday was saying Waterford so wide open at times, I wonder if they'll revert to a sweeper when they play Limerick in the Championship. And then Tony Brown was writing today, and he was again saying the league campaign, loads of great work done, they've played this more expansive brand. He said, however, they have played a lot of their league hurling on small, tight pitches. Galway and Clare at home. They had Dublin and Parnell Park, even Galway and Nolan Park. He said Tadhg de Burke a sweeper for years, but he fell between 2 stools and it didn't quite work. So do Waterford need to go back to the drawing board a little bit? Like, poor old Noel Connors didn't have a bad game by any means, but he sort of left to fend for himself, and that can be risky territory.
Yeah, well, there's so many different aspects in that. And the first one you have to look at is, I suppose, when you're looking at Sunday, it's Limerick. So you're playing against the guys that are probably more set up than anyone to beat the sweeper system. So if you remember Garrod Hegarty, in the second half, he got the ball out around midfield, striking it into the Hill 16. He had a small bit of time, and it even showed on the Sunday game highlights that night, and he put up his finger.
Yes.
And basically, from just being in that position, I would imagine Garrod Hegarty looked up, and Galan or whoever was inside was beside his man and was in two minds which way he was moving. So just to remind our listeners, the Limerick full forward line, from speaking to guys that are marking them, are incredible at moving just before the ball comes in. So they're going this way, they're going that way, and suddenly they make a burst, which is very difficult to defend, because the defender, if he tries to pull and drag over him, the umpires are in on you, or the referee sees it and it's a free.
Yeah.
So you're just reacting. So you could lose 3 or 4 yards on him straight away. So I'd imagine Garrod Hegarty looked up, and whoever was inside, which if we take was Galan, wasn't moving. And suddenly he put up his finger, then Galan moves. So suddenly he sees the space. So no matter where the sweeper is in that instance, the ball is going to be, once Garrod Hegarty strikes it well, it's going to go in favour of the inside forward, which is Galan in that instance. So in that view, if you're talking about Anthony Daly playing a sweeper, I don't think it would have mattered one damn, because the Limerick guys don't hit the ball blind. They work the ball up as far as midfield until they can see what's going on. Then they strike. So if the sweeper is in the way, they will keep it short, maybe hit the ball to Keane Lynch, hit the ball to Tom Arcee, and then it's a point. If the sweeper is not in the way, then they'll drive it in. So I think they will just bypass that sweeper. The second argument is then Waterford. Let's talk about Waterford. What tactics did they play? So I was looking at it on TJ Carr, Joe. So from what I could see, and I've talked to people that were at the game, and it does appear that Waterford, if they played a sweeper or not, they definitely only left a couple of forwards up there, maybe 5 versus 6, which is, in my opinion, is the total wrong thing to do against a Limerick team, because you need to be taking them guys on man for man. If you leave any of them guys, Diarmaid Burns, Mike Casey, Tom Conlon, any of them lads free, they're brilliant, because the guy marking Stephen Bennett or marking Shane Bennett, they will play the man, let the ball break, and suddenly it's on for the sweeper, to the spare man that Limerick have to clear up. So I think the only way to beat them, and I think the way they were saying it was Austin Gleeson, when they lined up for the throw-in, I think Austin Gleeson could have lined up in the corner. So it was Gleeson and the two Bennetts. Then obviously Gleeson would have came out the field. So I think I am right in saying that the two boys were left in a two-man full forward line kind of, but there were 5 versus 6 then, forwards versus backs. Yeah. And I think they're the total wrong tactics to go with against Limerick. So I think, and Limerick are the top team, and I've been saying this for many years, Joe, to beat the top teams, you'll pull off shocks and you'll pull off once-off victories, but to win an All-Ireland and to win a championship, a national title, you have to go and play 6 versus 6 or 5 versus 5, but even it up there. Yeah. And I think if this could be the best thing ever happened, Waterford, if they learn from it and if they go back, because we have seen these lads won minor All-Irelands, they won under 21 All-Irelands. These guys, they've got to, them two boys play for a club called Ballystagger, they got to a junior club All-Ireland, two boys creating havoc. I think you get these boys into 1v1 man-on-man battles, and that's where Waterford will have their best chance. And put Austin Gleeson in a position that it's him versus his man. Yeah. Don't give him a free roll. Yeah. Now, again, I'm speaking from looking at it on television, Joe, so I wasn't at the match in Croke Park to see exactly what was going on, but I would imagine it's a fair analysis of it.
Okay, well argued. Either way, beating Limerick's not going to be easy, we can say that much. Just before you go, Joe Canning out for 16 weeks. Back in August, roughly speaking, if all goes well. We are not at the point, surely, where Galway are not going to still be involved in the championship without Canning. They can get to the last 4 without him, I would presume.
Yeah, well, it depends. You see that poster I've back up behind me, the Game of Thrones. Last year I spoke about the Munster Championship. Nobody's safe. You had 5 teams battling it out. We were trying to predict who was going to go through, who's going to be left behind. Tipperary, the team we all probably predicted would be the first name through out of the Munster Championship, didn't get through. Well, I think this year the Leinster Championship is going to be similar. I don't think Carlow will get through, but I think the other 4 teams, any one of them could be left behind. So Galway, what's going to happen? The Joe Canning injury, right? For Galway, they can look at the glass half empty or the glass half full. First of all, it's going to make sure that the guys step up. they have enough players. We have seen them putting up huge scores. So they have enough players to fill the void that Joe Canning. It's not going to be easy, but they definitely have guys that can take frees, that can score huge amount of points.
Yeah.
So I think from that side of view, if Micheál O'Donoghue plays it right, it could nearly drive on the rest of them. Say, let's do this, and Joe will be back. The other side of it, though, is I think it's definitely going to give huge confidence to their opponents. I would have predicted Galway to be probably the first name through out of Leinster.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not so sure. They're coming down, I think they're coming down to Nolan Park to play Kilkenny. They have to play Dublin, who top Division 1B. They have to play Wexford. I think that's actually up in probably Pearse Stadium, so they probably should win that. But as I said, nobody's safe, and Galway definitely aren't safe. So they can treat this and let's do it for Joe. And he got them out of enough holes over the years.
Yeah, interesting times. Come here, the last time you weren't able to talk to us because you were going to see Jersey Boys. Does it get the Tommy Walsh 5 stars?
It does now. I didn't really know many of the songs, but I had a great time.
Good man. Right, listen, thanks a million for that. I think you're off training for the evening, so we'll let you go.
Yeah, great stuff, Joe. Thank you.
All right, come on.